So does that mean when you were working in finance, you were doing acting at night? Was it on the side? Or were you like, you know what, I'm going to completely stop finance and dive head in with acting?
Yeah. If I completely stopped, my wife would probably, not be happy, want to kill me pretty much. So yeah, so she actually did a bunch of stuff, and I thought as a family, but then also really went full speed into the acting, modeling, voiceover, content creation, UGC, all that stuff. Like it's all the doors were open, and I just chased after it 110%. Help other people make money and feed their families, dude.
I hear it a lot with the creators. It's like it's a huge responsibility also.
Yeah, it is a huge responsibility, but I think rest assured. I think the cool part is that I don't know, that you're providing like a better good. Like you're providing an option for people ethically and morally to make money, to have an income, to help them go on their trips, their vacations, spend more time with their kids.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we have one of our creators, Burnett, a creator that was with us for over 3.5 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
He's a dad, a movie star, and now a content creator full time. We're going to learn about his journey, how his come up in the acting world, in the content creation was, and we hope to give you guys as much as valuable tips as possible for anyone starting out. Hello, Ben.
Hey, Simon, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Perfect. So let's jump right in. Speak
Okay.
to me about the first few moments that you wanted to become an actor. Because if we do Google your name, it
Mhm.
comes up on IMBD. And a lot of people see that. So how did that all start?
Yeah, I think it's everybody's just trying to figure out exactly what they want to do in life, and I think as we're just trying to pivot around to different opportunities. And probably the encouragement I would give to people is chase after what you really like and don't give up on one specific thing. And I think for a long while, I knew I wanted to create. I knew there was kind of a creative side to it. I graduated in advertising, went into finance, but I felt like there was just something else kind of pulling me in different directions. And one of the cool parts about acting and creating is you get to play characters, you get to be play lots of different roles that you can only imagine that you get to do. And so it's just being able to flex that creative muscle is probably the coolest aspect of it that I really enjoy. And the reason I bring some of this stuff up about finding your avenue, finding your path, is that didn't happen until like much later on in my life. And I thought, gosh, there's still other things I'd really like to do. And if you're not really happy or passionate about where you're at right now, pivot. You can make a different change and try other things out. And that's exactly what I did. So never
Very
look
true.
back.
So does that mean when you were working in finance, you were doing acting at night? Was it on the side? Or were you like, you know what, I'm going to completely stop finance and dive head in with acting?
Yeah. If I completely stopped, my wife would probably, not be happy, want to kill me pretty much. So yeah, so she actually did a bunch of stuff, and I thought while I was doing my finance job, and I thought, gosh, these look like really fun, like really cool jobs, really fun opportunities, working with great brands. Like, how can I get involved in that? And I told her, like, hey, submit me, introduce me to who, your agency and whatever. And she was just like, oh yeah, I don't know, honey, I don't know. And so finally I just was like, I'm going to do it on my own. I went and got headshots, met with an agent, and started chasing those down. And I would run off to do things on my lunch break. I'd hop on one of these little scooters in downtown Salt Lake, and I would run over to like callbacks and auditions. And I remember just thinking, like, I hope this meeting doesn't last too long because my lunch break is only like an hour. So yeah, so it was a lot of like part-time evenings, weekends. And so I did that for a couple years and just kind of got to the point where I was like, man, I could do so many more opportunities if I walked away from my job. And so I did in 2019, right before the pandemic. Didn't have any idea what was going to happen. But I told my manager and I said, hey, I'm done. Yeah, it's kind of been something that's been on my mind for a while, and you're just gonna chase it. So yeah, I left at 100%, and just chased after some of our own little personal businesses that we have as a family, but then also really went full speed into the acting, modeling, voiceover, content creation, UGC, all that stuff. Like all the doors were open and I just chased after 110%.
G- Got it. And if you could like bring us back and give us one of those early wins that really gave you some motivation, what was it?
I think there was, you as an actor, there's a lot of failure, and so you go through a lot of auditions, you do a lot of callbacks, which callback is the second audition, right? You do the first one,
Mhm.
you submit, you're brought in for another callback, and yeah, I didn't get a lot, but I remember hopping on one of these little lime green scooters, racing off to an audition, bringing my resume, trying to look presentable, hurrying quickly, get my stuff together, walk in, and I landed it. And I was like, "Oh, dude, this is awesome." It was a really cool. It was a modeling gig for a company, um, and I just thought, "Okay, that's possible. Like, I can actually have my full time job, and I can land some of these other jobs." And so that was an early win that really made me think, "Okay, it can happen." And it just gives you, and the more and more of those you get, you just build that confidence and just knowing, "Hey, you can do it. You can do
Mhm.
it."
And
So
it's like a snowball effect after.
yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Yep.
And that first modeling gig that you said, was it with a e-commerce brand? Were they online? Was it more retail?
Mhm. Yeah, so they're a brand, it's called Alsco. They provide uniforms, like floor mats and things like that. A lot of so to a lot of businesses. So this was for like
Okay.
their website. I think they did like promotional stuff for social media, all that kind of stuff. And that one was I didn't exactly know where it was going to go or anything like that. It was just kind of like, hey, I am just chasing after ideas and dreams, crossing my fingers, saying my prayers, and just trying to hustle as much as I can. And so, yeah, that's what that
Mhm.
one was for.
Perfect. And when was the transition to UGC? Like that, now that we know UGC in 2020, this was a term that was used very here and there, really. And then in 2021, it really took charge and it took impact in like this UGC creator really started. Is
Yeah,
that something that you already knew before 2021, 2020? Or did
yeah,
it just come in slowly as you were getting more modeling? Everyone was kind of shifting towards Facebook ads and TikTok.
yeah. I think it was there. I'd have to look at some of the timeline on this, but I think it was there a little bit before the pandemic. But I think the pandemic, like, really exploded it. It's like, "Hey, we can't
Mhm,
meet in person," or, "We've gotta still get ads out. We gotta have projects," all those kind of things. And I really think a lot of people I'll say this too, there's a lot of bad things that happened with the pandemic, but in a lot of other ways, there was a lot of, like, amazing things. For actors, it opened up doors to work in any market. I mean, I'm in Orlando, I'm in Dallas, I'm in Austin, LA. I work in any market now, and I think it directly is contributed to, the results of the pandemic, basically. But yeah,
mhm,
I think you're right, Simon. I think right around that time, is when it started to really explode. I would say the word UGC, the acronym UGC, and I have to kind of explain user generated content. Now I think it's so much more known. I even just say
mhm,
content creation at this point,
mhm,
a lot of times. But yeah, there was a few jobs that I had kind of early on, and they'd send products, kind of test it out, everything like what we do here with you guys.
mhm,
And then it just started to explode, and I think really because of the pandemic, it was just like, hey, it just
mhm,
totally started skyrocketing, and even more so now it's gotten really really big. And it's funny because I think there's kind of there's like this stereotype of, hey, let's make videos vertical or horizontal again. A lot of my film guys are kind of bummed, they're kind of upset. But I think what it's done, and it's made it so magical for all of us, is the fact that it's another piece in a brand or a company's portfolio. They've got their commercials for TV, they've got content for social media, now they've got UGC, and it's just another aspect that fits right in with the brand's portfolio, their platform, their
mhm,
strategy. So, yeah.
mhm. And yourself as an actor, I'm not sure with all the different agencies or platforms that you work with, but yourself as an actor, you're used to having a script, right? But
Yeah.
then UGC came along. And it was sometimes like some brands just give you bullet points and they ask you to just be natural. Was that a bit of a challenge? Was it hard or did you just flow with it?
Well, I think for me, I think it could be a challenge for some, and I think everybody kind of comes into this space a little bit different. They've got some different backgrounds, some different techniques, some it's talents and whatnot. For me, I looked at the script or the bullet points and I said, "Oh, that sounds good, but can we make it like? Are you guys open to making it like a little bit? I don't want to say better, but maybe like I think it could be better. Like maybe we maybe amp up the hook a little bit more, or maybe there's an element for a comedic beat. I think if we can make it funnier, I think the ads do better. I think if there's
Mhm.
more energy and there's more excitement to it, and some, ask for different things. You're right. But yeah, to answer your question, not really. I mean, I just want to deliver what they want to deliver on. But the cool part about it nowadays is we can kind of give you both. Like if you just want the
Mhm.
straightforward talking to camera, we can do that. And then I'm like, hey, but do you want to just try one other one and see how how that plays out? And
Mhm.
it's cool to see what the brand chooses in the end because sometimes I feel like they kind of go with more of, slightly comedic.
Because they do better on ads, it's entertaining and it
Yes,
sells. That type of content sells, right?
I think
It's
it does. Yeah, I think it does. I think it does well. Yep.
And over the last 3 years, you've gotten into UGC, you got a lot of brand deals. Were you someone that did outreach to get brand deals? Did you go out of your way to email brands or to DM them on Instagram? Because a lot of creators right now are struggling with this. They don't know where to get the brand deals.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, this is what I would say is I reached out. I'm the type that I think it's fun. It's, the aspect of trying to chase down the agreement, the deal is kind of exciting. It can be a little bit cumbersome, a little bit of a process. It kind of, it's kind of you're building it. Sometimes it doesn't happen right away. Sometimes it does. I have some successes from it and a lot of failures from it. The cool part I really like about what you guys have is the fact that you guys already have all that already done. The educating, the negotiations, the price, like all that
Mhm.
legwork done.
Mhm.
So yes, I did do some of that, but sometimes it requires a lot. Sometimes I just chase after brands that I'm like, oh, I'm super passionate about this brand. Like I buy this brand all the time.
Mhm.
I would love to do a commercial or some type of content UGC for these guys because I know the brand really well. I could talk to it. Those would be the kind of the brands
Mhm.
I chase down.
Okay, got it. And
Excuse me.
speaking, no problem. Do you need a second?
Oh, I'm good.
Good.
Nope.
Okay,
Think so.
perfect. Now, speaking about our community, where did you first hear about us? Was it us that outreach to you? Because
Yeah.
we have a creator department team that really outreaches to a lot of different content creators and tries to onboard them to get brands. How did you first hear about us?
Either it was you guys either reached out just directly off of maybe like Instagram or something, or I signed up for or another service called Backstage. A lot of actors use it,
Mhm.
actors, models, voiceover artists. I think it actually might have been on there. You guys had posted something looking for creators. It said remote work. I thought, great, this is perfect. I can do it right from my house. And so I think it was just right on that's kind of started that engaging, the process of here's what you need, here's what I've done, and here we are today.
Yes, we've been over 3 years, and I don't know how many videos later,
Yeah.
right? We did a
Yeah.
lot of different brand deals, and I remember one in particular that I want to bring up, and
Oh,
it was the Vosker one. You put
oh,
the first one for Vosker. You put
yeah,
a construction type of vest on. You
yeah,
really dove into the content creation, and that's what we look for in creators.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that was a good one. In fact, it's funny you bring that one up because that's one that I remember when we got that, and it's cool when you get the products too because you're like actually get to test these out and try them. And
Mhm,
yeah, I think I actually went to I did a couple of videos for those guys, and
mhm,
well, I think on the first segment, the first part, it was like 3 videos, and then there was another installment as well. And
mhm.
I actually went to a site where they were building homes, and some of the guys were like, "Wait, what's going on over here?" and stuff. But I think it turned out really good. I was just like, "Yeah, this is for cameras." Explaining to them like what we're doing, because they're kind of weirded out, like they don't like know what it is.
Mhm.
Like, I usually try to, if I have a chance to help my kids help me, they get paid to do it. And so I was like, let's
Mhm.
put this, I think I mounted it to like a 2x4.
A
It's a
two
camera.
by four, yes.
Yeah. It was a camera and it has a solar panel. And I mounted it to a 2x4 and put it in a pile of dirt. But I aimed it at these houses that are being built. And I had my son kind of
Mhm.
stabilize it. And he was kind of helping me, carry
Mhm.
gear and stuff. And yeah, no, they turned out good. And it was just a good product too. It's always nice when the product's like, works well.
Mhm.
And
So
yeah.
speaking about products, give us one challenge that you had, and you do not have to say the name, but a
Yep.
product that was very difficult to do, or you did not believe in the product. How did the actual UGC content turn out when you don't believe in a product?
You know, um, it's kind of, it's always kind of a disappointment. Sometimes products are in early stages, so it's not just that they don't work. It is sad if it is a case where they're like, it just doesn't work at all. But I mean, I can understand, like, I mean, I tell my kids this: advertising, not everything is always exactly what what it's claimed to be. And maybe they're trying to improve the product. Maybe they're trying to make it better, and it's just still in the early stages and whatnot. So, but just like anything, my goal when I talk to any kind of brand is like, hey, I'm here to help educate, entertain, and motivate people to make purchases. And I grew up in advertising. I graduated from advertising. I have a degree in it, communications, emphasis in advertising and marketing. So I totally get that space. It's the same thing with acting as well. Sometimes you get these products where you're like, oh man, I don't know, like this doesn't really seem to like live up to all the claims. But at the end of the day, for me personally, it's like I have a job. My job is really to, it's not necessarily maybe something that I'll use all the time.
Mhm.
But I do want to try to give the brand, if this was my company and my product, I want to have them, have the best shot of getting their product out to the market. If they think that they
Mhm.
think if the brand believes that this is a product that can provide a solution or a service for other people, I'm going to go with them on that,
Mhm.
unless it's something that morally I don't agree with. Outside of that, man, I just want to help them get to those next levels. So
Great. And you see a lot of creators, right? They try to do UGC. They test a bunch of different products. They do a UGC with a bunch of different brands. But
yeah,
one thing that happens with, I think, most creators is that they don't actually get consistent deal flow from these brands over and over again, or from an
yeah,
agency or a
yeah.
platform. What was your differentiating factor when creating content so that brands actually come back and work with you again, and there's a consistent deal flow coming to you?
Yeah. Well, that's like the biggest compliment, I think, is when a brand is
Mm.
like, "Hey, we loved your content." Vosker, for example,
Mhm.
I did the first videos, and you're never really sure, like, "Man, I hope the brand likes them." It's everybody's got their own opinion on it. I think I did the best I could,
Mhm.
tried to deliver it the best way, the most realistic, or if they wanted funny. Um, and really, I would say it's if you can have that, then that's the best. You guys have been great. I mean, I don't even keep track of how many um, gigs, opportunities that we've done, but it's been a ton. And it's the greatest thing is to have that constantly coming through. And I would also say too, what's been really nice is making it really, really seamless and easy and transparent between the agency and the creator, and making that just jive like super, super convenient. It's like, hey, really quick, Ben, we got a brand we're looking at. Matt shoots me over a text and says, here's the brand.
Mhm.
Are you interested? Here's the rate. Are you interested? I say yes or no. Boom. I present it. I accept if they want to go with me. And so, yeah, I think that also helps out a lot too, especially is everybody's in different scenarios, but I've got kids,
Mhm.
family life, home, everything that kind of pulls you in lots of different directions. And so having that like just really simplified is
Mhm.
probably one of the biggest things that I look for when doing partnerships with other agencies or groups, anything like that. Just like, how can this be super simple? I mean, I have reels and I have portfolios of projects that I've already worked on. Can we use those to show what I can do and pitch the best way to the brand? And if we can do that, man, so everybody just makes some money and have some fun with it.
Great. And what would you say is a unique maybe unique part of the process in our agency that you haven't seen in others?
Well, kind of what I just had touched on a little bit, I think
Hmm.
really, I could talk to that, is the fact that you guys make it very simple, very
Hmm.
easy to communicate,
But
and yeah, go ahead.
if you remember very well, at the beginning, it was pretty messy, the first few campaigns, because we were still starting off, right, with the agency. And then over time, we kind of built out the briefs. We had better
Yeah,
processes. We moved everything to Notion. Before, everything was like on Canva. But yeah.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say is on the briefs, I think we've seen a lot of transition and a lot of improvement in there, especially too where, um, different agencies will word things a little bit different, face to camera, B-roll, close up, and you guys kind of had a little bit of a breakdown on your brief where it kind of explained some of those things, screen capture, so if there's ever any kind of question on what shot we're needing, that helps out a lot. Because sometimes you've got everything set up, you've got the layout, the camera's ready to go, you got your mic set up, all those kind of things, and then you're kind of second guessing the shot. And I think that's one thing that's really helped out a lot is if there is ever any kind of question, I can always text the team, but
Hmm.
also just looking back at the brief and kind of like the definitions of what we need for this shot, I think that helps out a lot too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
We don't
Perfect.
want to talk about
Now,
the early days of the you guys have come a long ways. It's been good to see. Yeah, good to see the
the
progress. Yeah,
transition, right? The progress of the whole team.
for sure.
Now, if you would have to go back to 2020, 2021, when you
Yeah,
first started in the UGC space, would you
yeah.
do anything differently to speed up maybe the process of getting a lot of brands or attracting a lot of brands?
Yeah, yeah. I probably talk to a lot more brands. I mean, because
Hmm.
I just think this game is a numbers game. It's hitting them. Just the more people you can talk to, the better off. I think it takes brands a little while to be educated and see the importance of it. But also having a reel, I put together a reel that's all of my content creation UGC stuff. And some of that you could almost create kind of like you do in acting, where one's maybe a little bit more funnier, one's more informative, one's more, maybe it's just
Hmm.
only B-roll or whatever, ASMR, any of that kind of stuff. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, that's one thing I would probably do is probably target that, and I'd have a portfolio a lot earlier on as well. Something I use. I've got my own website, benburnett.com, but I also do like a UGC Today, which links to it's just UGCtoday.com. It links right to my Instagram page, and it's just the Instagram
Hmm.
page that's just UGC jobs I've done, and it just kind of gives people an idea of what I've done. I
Hmm.
think that would help out a lot earlier on. Portfolio and a real or game
Hmm.
changer in advancing how quickly you want to get to where you want to.
Great tips.
Yeah,
And do you think that creators, when starting out, right, we have a full community of people that
yeah,
want to jump into this right now. Do you
yeah.
think it's important for them to build an organic presence? Or is that really secondary and just to focus on the volume of brands that you outreach to?
It's a good question. I would say, I think it's changing. It's like everything is changing now. Definitely getting a portfolio, getting a reel that we talked about is going to be really, really beneficial, I believe.
Hmm.
But I'd also say to an aspect of that, getting like on your social media, that is becoming so much more relevant in UGC, in acting, and all this kind of stuff. I think that having that like follower base, you get into a whole area of influencer space that now can be a whole different thing, and whitelisting, and you know what I mean. So it's trying to transitioning. I think there's benefits to having both of that.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Great. Perfect. And the last question is related to AI and UGC. What do you think is the future for AI and UGC? Do you think it will be a thing or people want to just connect with an actual human being?
it's interesting. We're seeing AI step into so many different areas, right?
Mhm.
In the entertainment space, in UGC, content creation, all that kind of stuff. I think as of right now, I just watched a movie and it was like you could tell it was AI. It just wasn't like 100% perfect.
Mhm.
I think there's always going to be an area where actors, presenters, entertainers are always going to be there, but AI is going to probably step in and kind of take a little bit of that, I would assume, where some brands are like, hey, this is actually good enough for this face to camera. We're going to run with that. That's totally fine. I think if they did that, I don't know, some of the AI scripts don't sound as good.
Mhm.
So I don't know, but it's continuing to change. It's totally changing. If they can make it funny, they can make it informative. I think the informative side will probably be pretty easy as long as it's written correct, like
Mhm.
written the right way and more of a human type tone. Um,
But for the humor,
for the humor, I don't know. I feel like that might be kind of hard
mhm.
to make that land, but could it get there? Probably. Yeah, it probably could. But that would be the reason I would say is just continue to be as good as you can at your UGC jobs, at your content creation jobs, acting, voiceover, because it's probably going to come in and take some of those jobs, like we've seen in other industries, right?
Mhm.
Where it's like, hey, we don't need as many writers or whatever. We don't need as many, so and so, whatever, jobs and in industries. It kind of takes some of those jobs. I just think you just want to always focus on making your craft as good and as at the best as possible,
Mhm.
and then I really think you'll have the best chance to succeed in the long run.
Great. And
Yeah.
for the creators that are watching and they're like, I want to make this my full-time gig. I want to be a full-time content creator. Any
Yeah.
last tips that they should be that should be in their mind or that they should focus on?
I would say go after it, chase after it. Don't wait. Don't think you've got to have all this equipment. I mean, I've got lights, I've got microphones, I've got all this kind of stuff. It's been funny. The longer I've done UGC and content creation, I've actually used less equipment. If that's in Yeah, seriously. It's
Mhm.
like I started off and it felt like I had to when I was pitching brands, they'd be like, "Well, tell us what you've got." And I'd be like, "Well, I've got 8 softbox lights, I've got a Rode mic, a Shure mic, tripods, cameras, all this kind of stuff. I have a DSLR. I don't use that anymore. Um, I feel like my iPhone 15 Pro Max is like pretty good. Really, it's interesting how much acting and content creation overlap. And so in the audition space, when you audition as an actor, if they can hear you very well, if they can see you very well, and there's nothing distracting, that's the golden rule for auditions. And it's the same thing, I believe, when it comes to content creation and UGC. It's they got to be able to see you and they've got to be able to hear you. And what do you see that might be kind of pulling the viewer away? You've got like 3 seconds to really hook them into the rest of the pitch for 30 seconds or 60 seconds. And so really, I'd say go for it. Don't wait. It's kind of funny. You don't know what you don't know, and I think I was talking with somebody who's an actor, and they're like, "Oh, I don't really know how to do content creation. I'm worried. I don't know. Like, you can do it all. I can help you." I thought, man, if you only knew, it's not as hard as really you're making it out to be. Um, I think as soon as you dive into it, it's like anything. As soon as you dive into it, you'll be like, "Oh, okay, it's not as bad." You get more confidence by doing it. Um, and I would just say, honestly, the other tidbit I would say that I've kind of experienced is it doesn't have to be perfect. I think a lot of times, artists and content creators and actors were like, "Oh, we got to have that like perfect audition, or we need that perfect take." And I turn over a few takes. I turn in a few takes to a brand, and I'm like, hey, there's probably one that's in there. It's probably I probably turn in more than I should in some cases. I think editors are probably like, this is a nightmare because few extras. But I think it's kind of fun if you can change a few things up and run with it. But just know it just doesn't have to be perfect. Chase after things, do the best you can. Don't get hung up on the failures and just go ahead and try to make it as good as you can, but don't worry about it being absolutely perfect.
Perfect. Ben, thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking to you. And I hope that others take these lessons and go after it, like you said.
Cool, man.
Perfect.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate it. Hey,
Perfect.
I want to get a picture with you. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, you just smile. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, cool. Yeah, dude, good job. I think that's what I wanted to kind of get across was hearing your
Mhm,
story is good job, dude. I think that was one of the things. I started a business a while back when I was in college. We rent graphing calculators to college and high school students like all over the nation. And
mhm.
I still have it going. It's something that's just kind of on the side. Um, but I just thought, how cool would it be to offer a business, a service, a product where you can actually help other people make money and feed their families, dude?
It's I hear it a lot with the creators. It's like it's a huge responsibility also.
Yeah, it is a huge responsibility, but I think take rest assured. I think
Mhm,
the cool part is that um, I don't know that you're providing like a better good, like you're providing an option for people ethically and morally to make money, to have an income, to help them go on their trips, their vacations, spend more time with their kids. I
mhm.
mean, I use some of the jobs that you guys send over my way. I don't think there's like a ton for kids, but I usually will have my kids involved in it, whether they're
The
um,
Beano board.
what's that?
The
Oh,
Beano board.
we played that last night, by the way.
It's fun.
Yeah, dude, I didn't even know this thing existed. I was doing an acting job at a restaurant. It was like a restaurant and kind of bar lounge area. I
Mhm.
walk in and I look at it, and sure enough, there's the Beano board. And so that night I went back to my kids and I'm like, guys, you're
Mhm,
never gonna believe this, but there was a Beano board. Anyhow, my kid loves it.
mhm.
My kids all like it. We're doing a family tournament right now where we are it's a playoff kind of a thing. Anyhow, it's a fun
Mhm.
board. Yeah, it's like soccer, you guys. It's yeah,
Yeah.
soccer with on a little board, and it's just
Mhm.
cool. My kids like it.
And
My
and I
8
do see it too. I do see it with some of the other content creators. I get on calls with some of them,
yeah.
and they're like, "Honestly, thank you, Simon. Like your agency gives me like an extra few hundred or even thousands of dollars every single month, and like I could stay home with my 2-year-old. I could spend time. I could work from home."
Yeah.
Right, and it's like it's a very good feeling. And last time I was on a call with the creator, and then he brings his little daughter on the call and like hello, and it's
Uh,
like wow, I'm like actually doing something very good, right?
yeah,
And it feels good. Feels good to
yeah.
do it.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's fun. I know. I actually see I think there's a fair amount of UGC. I mean, there's always been a lot that are just like one person, but I think there's going to be a lot more where they're like couples. I mean, there's a fair amount now, but I think that's going to be a bigger thing. I think that's something
Hmm.
with families as well that I've already seen it a little bit with mine. Where and it's kind of been interesting because some of these agencies that I've worked with, they're like, oh yeah, we can't have anyone on that's under I don't know 18 or 16 or something like that.
Hmm.
But I think that's going to change. I think that there's a lot that are going to be like, hey, we want to, the brand wants a family or they want, it's just
Hmm.
kind of different things. So yeah, be interesting to
Hmm.
see kind of where it migrates
And
to and changes.
last question:
Yeah.
this year was a huge year for TikTok. Did you get
Yeah.
involved with TikTok Shop?
So I did get involved with TikTok Shop. I do. So this is actually kind of my live streaming backdrop. One of them that I use where
Mhm,
I got like little neon signs and stuff like
mhm,
that. So I do live stream and I do have a presence on TikTok. It's mainly comedic. It's just funny stuff that I try to put
mhm,
out. It's just, hey, it's Ben B. And I try to focus on stuff too that's more family friendly. Yeah, maybe more like PG topics or PG content,
mhm,
comedy, any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I know TikTok Shop. I don't know. I haven't done a ton with it, but I have a lot of friends that are kind of chasing that down. I think as far as creators and why I would say if you're an actor or if you are a content creator, getting on a social media platform and being able to have that presence. It's kind of I'm listening to a book right now by Michael Richards called Exits and Entrances or Entrances and Exits. And what he would do to kind of stand out and be known is he would go to the comedy nightclubs, right? And he'd like perform all that time and stuff. And I feel like that's kind of what social media is now, is here's a way that you can get out. Obviously, it's, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs and there's a lot of other people out there kind of doing that same thing too. But I think it doesn't cost anything to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Post up content that you like. Super cool when it starts to like get viral and people chime in and stuff. I got a couple videos that I was like, no way, this one's like totally catching on. And after posting like hundreds of videos, some of them stick, some of them don't. But so yeah, no, I think being on social media and being on those platforms, I think is really big. And it's just another way that I think like actors and content creators can have other brands find them and have exposure.